The film was only 7 minutes long. We watched it for almost half an hour. At first it looked like ordinary traffic footage from 1968. A country road, a fence post, a few old cars passing in the afternoon sun. Then the same cream-colored sedan came around again, and again, and again. The shadows kept getting longer. The sky kept moving toward dusk. But that car kept driving the same 11 seconds, over and over, like something on that road refused to let it leave. That was when Marta Prentice stood up and said the people inside the car were her family. The family that vanished on Route 9 in 1968. The same road the county buried under farmland 58 years ago. The first thing you should know is that there were 9 of us in the room, and every one of us saw it. I keep coming back to that. Not a tape I found alone in a drawer. Not a signal I picked up on a night shift with nobody to check my work. 9 people, folding chairs, a screen, a projector borrowed from the middle school, and a plate of the lemon bars Corinne always brings because she thinks the meetings run better when people have something in their hands. 9 witnesses. I have gone over it since, the way you go over a bruise with your thumb, and I cannot make it into a private madness, because 8 other adults sat there and made the same sound I made at the same moment. We were the Harmon Falls Amateur Film Society, and if that sounds grander than it was, understand that it met on the second Thursday of the month in the back room of the public library, that its treasury held $111, and that its principal activity for the last 4 years had been the digitizing of old home movies. Harmon Falls is not a large town. It is the kind of place where the same 50 families have been marrying and burying each other for a century, and where the attics are therefore full of film. Super 8, regular 8, the occasional 16mm reel from somebody's father who fancied himself serious. When the society formed, the idea was gentle and almost civic. We would borrow these reels, run them through a scanner one of us had bought secondhand, and give the families back a clean digital copy so that the images would not rot to vinegar in the dark. In 4 years we had done, I would guess, 300 reels. I had watched more forgotten birthday parties than any person should. I could tell you the decade of a christening by the wallpaper. I ran the meetings, not because I was elected, but because nobody else wanted to, and because I am retired and my wife is patient. My name is Del Marsh. I sold farm insurance for 31 years, and I want it on the record that I am not an imaginative man. I mention this not to boast, but because the imaginative are the first people you dismiss when a thing like this is told, and I would ask you not to dismiss me on those grounds, because I have never in my life had a fancy that outlasted my morning coffee. The reel came in from the Prentice estate. Old Wesley Prentice had died that winter, and his daughter Marta, clearing the house to sell it, had found a box of film in the crawlspace under the eaves hot in summer, freezing in winter, the worst possible place, and it is a small miracle any of it survived. She brought us 11 reels in a shoebox that smelled of dust and old adhesive. Most were ordinary. There was a reel of the Prentice family at a lake I recognized, and a reel of a parade down Main Street that we all enjoyed because you could see the old hardware store still standing where the bank drive-thru is now. That is a thing our members love. That little jolt of there it is. That's where the feed and seed used to be. It is the whole pleasure of the work, really the town, looking back at itself. The reel I am telling you about had no label. The others had grease pencil scrawls, Lake 61, Xmas, Parade. This one was bare. We saved it for last that Thursday, the way you save the plain wrap present in case it is the good one. I threaded it and I ran it, and for the first 90 seconds it was nothing. It was a road, not a road in town. A stretch of 2-lane blacktop running through fields, shot from a slight rise, the camera propped or held very steady, a fixed frame with a fence post in the lower left corner that never moved. Whoever shot it had simply pointed at a road and let the film run. There was a smear of trees on the horizon and a pale sky and the road, and for a while nothing happened, and I heard Bill Okafor behind me say, "Well, this is riveting," and a few people laughed, and Corinne said, maybe we should move on, and I had my hand on the projector to stop it. And then a car came down the road. I want to describe this carefully because the carefulness is the whole thing. A car came into the top of the frame from the trees and moved down the road toward us and passed out of the bottom of the frame near the fence post, and it took perhaps 11 seconds to cross, and it was, without any question, a car from around 1967 or 68. A big two-tone thing, cream over green, with the long, flat hood they had then and the chrome that caught the sun. Ken Delgado, who restores cars, said its make out loud, some Oldsmobile, I don't remember, and he said it the way a man says a name he knows well, with pleasure. It was a perfect ordinary period detail. If you had told me the film was shot in 1968, I would have believed you without a second's doubt. That is what the road looked like. That is what the car was. Then a truck. Then two cars close together, a family car, and behind it something sportier. The road, it turned out, was not empty at all. The film had simply started in a lull. Now the traffic came steady and unhurried, a country highway on an ordinary afternoon in the year the car told us it was. And we settled in to watch, because it was pleasant. Honestly, the light was good, and there is a hypnotism to watching traffic you have no stake in. It was Corinne who said, "Where is that? I don't know that road." Nobody answered because nobody did know it. And you have to understand, in Harmon Falls, nobody knowing a road is itself remarkable. We are all from here. Between the 9 of us, we had well over 500 years of living in that county. We knew the roads the way you know the veins on the back of your own hand. Ken said, "That's got to be out past the county line," and Bill said, "No, look at the tree line. That's our hills. That's the ridge behind the Vaughn place." And there was a small argument, friendly, the kind our meetings were full of, about which ridge that was. And Marta Prentice, she had come to the meeting, wanting to see her father's films. Marta said quietly, "That's the old highway. That's Route 9. The room did not go silent all at once. It went silent in pieces, as one person after another did the arithmetic. There is no Route 9 in our county. There was. Route 9 was the old state highway that ran north out of Harmon Falls through the river bottoms toward Delphine. My own father drove it. It was replaced in, and here's the number that put the cold hand on the back of my neck. It was replaced in 1968, when the new 9 was cut on the far side of the river, and the old roadbed, which had flooded twice and cracked and heaved and was cheaper to bury than to fix, was regraded and plowed under and turned back to farmland. It is under the Vaughn and Kessler fields now. Corn grows on it. There has not been a car on Route 9 in 58 years, because there has not been a Route 9 in 58 years. There is not even a scar of it you can see from the air anymore. I have since looked. So, a reel of unlabeled film, shot who knows when, showing a road that was buried the same year the cars on it were new. That by itself is only a curiosity. A film from 1968 showing 1968 traffic on a 1968 road is exactly what you would expect an old reel to show. It is only strange because we forgot the road existed. Marta had to remind us. If the film had stopped there, we would have talked about it over the lemon bars and gone home charmed. And I would be telling you a warm little story about the past reaching up through a shoebox to tap us on the shoulder. It did not stop there. Because Ken Delgado, leaning forward, restorer's eye and all, said, Del, stop it. Back it up. Look at the third car." I did not stop it. I did not have to. Because by then the third car, the family sedan, cream, 4 doors, had come around again. That is the wrong way to say it. Let me be exact, because exactness is all I have. The film ran forward, the way film does. But a car we had already watched pass out of the bottom of the frame came back into the top of the frame. The same car, the same cream sedan, with a small dent I can now tell you was on the right rear quarter panel, and it came down the road and past the fence post and left the frame at the bottom. And then, some seconds later, it entered again at the top. And again. The same car, the same 11-second passage, looping but not looping the way a film loops, because the rest of the traffic was different each time. Other cars came and went, never repeating. A truck here, a motorcycle there, all of it fresh. But that one cream sedan came down that road again and again, patient, unhurried, on its circuit, while the world around it moved on. Somebody said, "It's a loop. The film's a loop." But it was not, and Ken knew it was not, and he was the one who understood first, because he watched the background. "The shadows," he said. "Look at the shadows. They're getting longer." They were. Over the, I would say, 20 minutes we watched, though time did strange things, and I do not fully trust the figure the light in that fixed frame went from flat afternoon to the long gold of evening. The shadows of the fence posts stretched across the road. The sky at the top deepened. It was not a loop. It was a single unbroken afternoon, filmed in real time, sliding toward dusk, and through that real, moving, singular afternoon, one cream sedan drove the same 11 seconds over and over, as though the rest of time did not apply to it, as though it were stuck and everything else was allowed to go home. Corinne turned on the lights. I want to be clear that she did this, that a living woman crossed the room and flipped the switch, because it is the most ordinary act in the world, and I have thought about it a great deal. She turned on the fluorescents, and the projector kept running and threw its washed-out picture onto the now bright screen, and even washed out we could see the cream sedan come around again, and Corinne said, in a voice that had gone very flat, "There's someone in it." We had all assumed the cars were empty or driven by the ordinary shadows of drivers, the way you never really see the people in old traffic footage. But she was right. In the cream sedan there were 4 shapes, and the reason we had not noticed them before was that they were not moving with the car. They faced backward. 4 people in a car, and all 4 turned in their seats to face out the rear window, back up the road they had just come down, and as the car passed the fence post each time, the 4 faces were pointed directly out of the frame at the camera. At us. Not the driver watching the road. All 4 watching us watch them, as the car carried them helplessly forward on its little circuit, and they strained around to keep their faces toward the lens for as long as the 11 seconds allowed. 9 of us, I keep saying it. 9 of us saw the 4 faces in the cream sedan, and I will tell you now that Marta Prentice made a sound I have never heard a person make, a sound with no air behind it, and she stood up so fast her folding chair went over backward and cracked on the floor, and she said, "That's them, that's my grandparents. That's the little one is my father. That's my father Dell, he's 7. That was the summer they—" She did not finish. But we all knew the shape of it, because everyone in Harmon Falls over 60 knows the Prentice thing the way you know the one dark story every town keeps. In the summer of 1968, in the weeks before Old Route 9 was closed for good, Wesley Prentice's parents and his older sister drove north toward Delphin and never arrived. The car was never found. Wesley, 7 years old, had been left home with an aunt that day, which is the only reason there was a Wesley to grow old and die that winter and leave a shoebox in a crawl space. The county dragged the river where the old road ran along it. They found nothing. It was assumed, in the way of such things, that the car went off the flooded roadbed into deep water and was carried down and buried in silt, and the road was closed a few weeks later on schedule, and the water and the mud and the corn came over all of it. And the Prentices became the town's one dark story, the family that drove onto a road that was about to stop existing and did not come off the other end. And here they were, on the buried road, driving the same 11 seconds forever, all 4 faces turned backward toward the only lens that had ever found them, in an afternoon that would not let itself become night, that kept sliding toward a dusk it would never reach. Because the film I checked, later, I checked a dozen times, the film was 7 minutes long. 7 minutes of physical film on a physical reel. We had watched it for 20. It had shown us hours. Now here is where I have to tell you the part that separates this from a ghost story, the part that is the reason I am setting it all down. Because a haunted reel of film is a thing you could put back in the shoebox. You could burn it even, and be done. That would be the tidy ending, and I have wanted the tidy ending more than I can say. We did not get the tidy ending because the road did not stay on the screen. It was Bill Okafor who noticed. Bill had gone to the back room's one small window for air. Marta was weeping. The mood had broken. Some of us were on our feet, and he was looking out at the parking lot, and the library lawn, and the road beyond, our own ordinary Larch Street on an ordinary Thursday night. And he said, "Del," just my name, and then, "Del, come here, right now." The projector was still running behind us. The cream sedan still came around. And out the window, on Larch Street, under the sodium lights, a car went by that did not belong to our night. Cream over green. The long, flat hood. It moved down our own street, past the library, unhurried, and its windows were full of backward-facing pale shapes, and it reached the corner where Larch meets Main, and it did not turn, and it did not stop. It simply reached the edge of what the streetlight touched, and it came apart, the way breath comes apart in cold air, and was gone. And then, perhaps a minute later, it entered again at the far end of Larch, from the dark, and came down our street once more. The road was reaching up out of the field, and it was using the film to find the surface, and now that it had found the surface, it did not need the film. It had a lens on it. It had 9 sets of eyes. It had, for the first time in 58 years, been seen, and being seen was the whole of what it wanted, and Larch Street was becoming the road. I could feel it. I want to describe the feeling precisely because it is the feeling that made the decision for us. It was not fear exactly, or not only. It was a pull, a longing, the way you feel at the top of a high place, a small, treacherous urge to lean out. Standing in that bright, ordinary room, I felt the road wanting me the way the family in the sedan had faced backward toward the lens. I felt myself wanting to be seen back, to go out onto Larch Street and stand where the cream sedan would come around and be part of the traffic. And I understood in my body, without being told by any wise old man or any note in a file, that if I went out there and let the road take my eyes, my longing, my attention, Larch Street would keep becoming Route 9, outward from wherever I stood, house by house, family by family, until the whole town was under the same unending afternoon and the corn grew over all of us. And here is the thing I am proudest of and least able to explain, and it is the reason I began by telling you there were 9 of us. Because it was not one lone person alone with the thing, tempted alone, deciding alone in the dark. It was 9 of us in a bright room, and we said it out loud. Corinne said, "Don't anybody go out there." She said it like a schoolteacher. And Bill said, "Turn it off, Del. Turn the film off." And I reached for the projector, and Ken Delgado Ken understood the machinery of it better than any of us. Ken said, "No, don't cut it. If you cut it while they're facing us, it stays where it is. It stays here. You have to let it finish. You have to let the light go all the way down." I did not understand him then, and I am not sure I understand him now, but I trusted him because he was the one who watched the shadows. So we did the hardest thing, which was nothing, and the most important thing, which was to do it together and out loud. We did not run. We did not go to the window and lean into the longing. We stood in the bright room, all 9 of us, and we watched the film to its end on purpose, watched the cream sedan come around and around, and every time it came, Marta said her people's names, out loud, all 4 of them, her grandfather and grandmother and her Aunt Ruth, who had been 14, and her father, who had been 7, she named them. Again and again, not the way you name a ghost to summon it, but the way you name the missing to finish them, to say, "We see you, we have you. You are here, you are accounted for, you can stop driving now." Corinne took her hand and said the names with her. Then Bill did. Then all of us, 9 people in folding chairs naming 4 people on a buried road, while the gold light in the fixed frame went down and down toward a dusk it had refused for 58 years. And it reached it. The light went down. The shadows swallowed the road. and on the very last pass, the cream Sedan came around, and the four faces, I swear this before anyone who will listen, the four faces turned forward. For the first time, they stopped watching us. They faced the road ahead, the way the living face where they are going, and the car drove down into the dusk at the bottom of the frame, and it did not come back around. The traffic thinned. One last truck, then the empty road and the last of the light. Then the tail leader, the plain film, and the flap, flap, flap of the reel running out, which is the most ordinary sound in the world. Out the window, Larch Street was Larch Street. Bill was still at the glass. He watched a long time. No car came around from the dark. The film, when I rewound it and ran it again the next week, and alone this time, God help me, because I had to know, was 7 minutes long and showed a road with ordinary traffic and no repeating cream sedan and no backward faces and no impossible dusk. Just a nice piece of period footage of the old Route 9 on a summer afternoon in 1968, the kind of thing our society exists to save. I have watched it perhaps 40 times. It has never done the thing again. Ken says that is because it is done, because a thing that only wanted to be seen and named has been seen and named, and there is nothing left in it to reach with. I hope he is right. I think he is right. But I notice that I have never shown that reel to fewer than 4 people at once, and I notice that I gave Marta back a digital copy, but kept the physical reel in my own house on a high shelf, and that I have never once run it after dark. Here is what I have decided the whole thing means, and it is not much, and it is all I have. The road was not evil. The family was not evil. They had been driving that afternoon for 58 years because no one had ever looked at them and said their names and told them the afternoon could end. Being buried is not the same as being finished. The town had a dark story, and it kept the story, but it lost the people. It remembered that the Prentices vanished and forgot to keep remembering the Prentices, the grandmother's face, the aunt who was 14, the boy who was 7 and grew old and left a shoebox. The road came up looking for eyes, because eyes were the one thing it had never had, and if it had found one pair alone in the dark, wanting, I think it would have taken them and kept coming. It found 9 in the light together, and 9 people together can do a thing one person alone cannot, which is to look at what is unbearable and not look away and not go out to it, but instead say, plainly and out loud and to each other, we see you, and you can stop now. That is the whole of it. Marta sold the Prentice house that spring. The new family has children. I see their bicycles on the lawn. The corn came up green over the Vaughn and Kessler fields this year the way it does every year, and if there is a road under it, it is only a road, and the afternoon on it is finally over. I still bring the projector to the second Thursday of the month. We still save the town's old films from rotting in the dark. It is good work. But I have added one rule to the society, unwritten, that nobody has asked me to explain. We do not watch an unlabeled reel alone, and we do not watch one after dark. And when we come to the end of anyone's film, before we turn on the lights, we say their names.